Number 32, Virginia Tech 2024 preview, plus news and notes from across the country on Good Morning College Football. Hello and welcome to Good Morning College Football, episode 82. I'm Nicholas Ian Allen of CFB Winning Edge and CampusToCanton.com. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Campus to Canton YouTube channel, where we very much appreciate if you would subscribe and give this video a like. And then, of course, if you are interested, we would love to see you as a member at CampusToCanton.com. You can join for as little as $2.99 per month, get access to a wide range of written content, tools on the site, rankings, including best ball. Those underdog best ball drafts are ongoing, and they're adding new ones all the time. Our team on the CFF side of things is constantly updating rankings based on news and information that comes out of fall camps, including injury reports, all that great stuff. So do please check those out, where you can sign up for as little as $2.99 per month. Or if you've got an interest on the higher side of things, our all 22 and C2C Winning Edge tiers get you access to a lot of the work that we will discuss during our Virginia Tech team preview today. Our team profiles, CFB Winning Edge 2024 team profiles, our returning production database, also our stat projections, which could help out with those best ball drafts as well, and just give you a little bit more information to digest, compare as you are preparing for the 2024 college football season, which kicks off in 8 days as we record early Friday morning. You might not see this until a couple of hours after we've recorded it. So if there's been any late breaking news, our apologies, had to get it going a bit earlier today than usual. But with that in mind, there's honestly not a ton of brand new news to discuss from the end of our show on Wednesday. We do have some quarterback battles that have been settled at Ohio State and Wisconsin, among others. We got confirmation that Will Howard will be the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. Not a big surprise. In spring practice, it sounded like Devin Brown was a little bit more in the mix, but early on in fall camp, there was even a little bit of buzz that true freshman Julian Sand might be the top competition for Will Howard. Throughout the entire process, though, Howard was a pretty heavy favorite, the transfer from Kansas State, and he slots in as someone that has, of course, a ton of experience. 27 games started for the Wildcats, comes in, isn't going to have to do too much with arguably the best roster in college football around him, including a defense that is maybe the highest rated that we have seen since we started CFB Winning Edge in 2018. Number one in roster strength, a 98.41 at the beginning of the season. This is certainly the highest we've seen. Usually roster strength, unless a team's hit hard by injuries, then that number will go down. But usually over the course of the season, because we do add production points that help elevate players' individual player ratings, what we call video game ratings, similar to what you'll see in the EA Sports College Football 25 video game. Nevertheless, over the course of the season, like I said, those roster strength numbers usually go up, and Ohio State already starting with maybe the highest rating that we've seen from a defense this season. The offense is in pretty good shape too. Number 2 in the country. Will Howard, believe it or not, as good as he was at K-State, one of the lower rated projected starters on this Ohio State offense. 87.5 is his rating. He's going to be able to work with a couple of 100+ rated players. That's where our video game ratings differ a little bit from EA Sports. We break through that 99 cap that the video game has. But Travion Henderson, well over 100 points in his individual player rating. Emeka Egbuka over 100 as well. Quinshon Judkins, the co-starter, co-elite running back in the backfield, is 97. That offensive line looks good on paper with 4 returning starters, Donovan Jackson being the highest rated of that group. And of course, alongside Egbuka, some rising stars at wide receiver. There's been a lot of buzz about Carnell Tate this spring and fall, but also, of course, the true freshman Jeremiah Smith, who has emerged as a starter already and one of the highest rated recruits in history, is going to be a factor, going to be one of Will Howard's top targets, you can imagine. So Ohio State appears poised for a run at a national championship. As we have discussed all preseason, the Buckeyes are number 1 in our CFB Winning Edge team strength power rankings, the team to beat right now on paper as we project it. Another team that named its starting quarterback, Wisconsin. This one was in a similar situation, it seemed, where Tyler Van Dyke, the transfer from Miami, had a lead in this competition the entire time, but was also challenged. And there was a lot of positive buzz for the second straight season, second straight spring, about Braden Locke for the Badgers. This fall, it even started fairly even in the competition. Locke was getting a lot more positive mentions in camp reports that we were seeing in the first week or so of fall camp. But over the last week, as we've mentioned previously, a lot of growing comfort, perhaps, in Tyler Van Dyke. He was starting to take control of this offense, and now it is official. Offensive coordinator Phil Longo on camera meeting with reporters earlier this week named Van Dyke the starter. So Wisconsin looking to take a big step forward with its ability to, challenge opponents through the air. The Badgers ranked 116th in our offensive team performance numbers via the pass last season, 72nd overall in offense with a top 45 rushing offense. But bringing Longo in, Luke Fickell, a lot of expectations that Wisconsin, with Longo's air raid roots, would be able to be much more productive through the air. Will Pauling, somebody who emerged as a go-to receiver last year. A lot of positive buzz about CJ Williams this season so far, this preseason, as well as depth at that wide receiver position. There's even been some talk that Pauling, according to the Wisconsin coaching staff, according to Fickell, he hopes won't be targeted as much as he was last season. College fantasy football players didn't like hearing that, of course. But this Wisconsin offense with Tyler Van Dyke now as the officially named starter, this Wisconsin team top 25 in our team strength power ratings, number 6 in the Big Ten, a team that looks like it could perhaps surprise in a new look Big Ten, especially if the Badgers continue to play top 25 defense. If that offense takes a step forward, this could be a very dangerous team. And if Tyler Van Dyke recaptures some of what made him a much rumored quarterback a couple of years ago to maybe end up at somewhere like Alabama before recommitting, so to speak, to Miami. Looked like someone who maybe had would be a high round draft pick in the NFL draft eventually. We'll see if he's able to recapture some of that in Madison this season. Also at Troy, Goose Crowder was named officially named the starting quarterback. No surprise there, taking over for Gunnar Watson, the defending Sun Belt champs. Crowder had been seen as the heir apparent. There was certainly a coaching change there, which always makes things a little bit less obvious, perhaps. There's sometimes a quarterback who looks like the next man up when there's a new coaching staff, maybe incoming transfer or doesn't quite fit the new head coach or coordinator's ideal fit for an offensive scheme, but Crowder was overwhelmingly considered the heavy favorite to be the starter at Troy, and bringing in Matthew Caldwell as an FCS transfer, really the only challenge to Crowder. Not Troy did not go after a proven FBS transfer. Crowder had been there for a while, seemed like an obvious choice, and it was made official earlier this week as well. There were some injuries of note, really more rumors than anything else. We didn't even touch on it on Wednesday because I typically like to cite the beat reporters and team sites as well as I possibly can, and typically those are, somebody breaks the news, I want to make sure to cite that person, and others maybe confirm it or add some more detail to it, and I like to cite those folks, and I want to make sure that they are real news. I don't deal much in rumor here. If you want that, a great place to check it out is Campus to Canton Discord. I'm not the only person there who has their ear to the ground or plugged into all these write-ups and sources and try to dig and find information. Chris Moxley, Jared Palmgren, others on the team there do a great job keeping up with this stuff, and that's a place to maybe find out a little bit more about what the rumors might be and send you down a rabbit hole, so to speak. But there was a lot of concern earlier this week that Oklahoma running back Ollie Gordon might have suffered some sort of significant injury. There were rumors of an ACL. Turns out, and from the CFB injury report Twitter handle, which I run and retweet news. I have to get back into the real swing of things. I gotten out of the habit of that, but that's a source, especially on game day, that I use to try to retweet important information, and that helps me actually kind of keep track of it as well to make sure that those changes and updates get made in our CFB Winning Edge team profiles. But retweeted a report where Mike Gundy was meeting with the media there in Stillwater and wouldn't really give any detail, but then Ollie Gordon just sort of walks by and looks normal, 100%. Sounded like maybe he had dealt with a little bit of a hip issue that is not considered to be major, but avoided all significant injuries. Doesn't look like he's going to miss any time. But also there now are a few rumblings, some whispers about Cam Cook at TCU. So can't confirm anything there, but I've seen a little bit out there, and perhaps there'll be more available later today or over the weekend. We'll certainly pass something along if something is officially reported and confirmed and all that good stuff. So, but be aware. Obviously, we've had some running back injuries so far this season. This preseason going to be without some players for a little bit of playing time. Talked about Kentucky and Wyoming earlier this week, among others, and not major names, but at Clemson, Dabo Swinney gave an update on 3 players who've already suffered season-ending injuries for the Tigers. A couple of young offensive linemen, redshirt freshman Ian Reed, true freshman Watson Young going to be out for the year with knee injuries, sophomore corner Miles Oliver as well. A few other bumps and bruises, and that is common now that we are 2-3 weeks into fall camp most places, and 8 days away from the season beginning, as we said. That is something that tends to happen. These guys practice hard and bump into each other, and those can take a toll even early on in the season. So as we get closer to the season, of course, sometimes these reports are a little harder to come by. Coaching staffs and these programs start to limit access. We've talked about places like Minnesota said, oh, this you get these 4 or 5 open practices and then that's it. That's fairly common across college football. So we will find out as much as we can, rely heavily on those beat reporters who do a great job, those team sites that are very close to these programs and also do a great job covering these teams. But again, today, not a ton of real news, either on the injury front or the personnel front, despite other than a few expected quarterbacks getting those official nods as the starter. All right. So with that in mind, let's turn our attention to the number 32 team in our team strength power ratings, the Virginia Tech Hokies. And Virginia Tech's been a real buzzy team so far this offseason. A big part of that is the Hokies return just about everyone from a 2023 roster that finished on a real high note last season. But I was a bit surprised to see the wide range of rankings we've discussed in our previous 31 team previews, a lot of the different media outlets and media members who've put together top 25 rankings. Virginia Tech, I would have expected to be thrown in a lot of those, and the 24 or 25 spot. Some are certainly we're willing to do it. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic had the Hokies 25th in his post-spring top 25. Mark Schlabach of ESPN had the Hokies 21st in his power rankings, his most recent. Phil Steele is on the high side, has the Hokies 16th in his power poll, 17th in his overall top 40 rankings, the highest projection that I've seen from the computers, the more analytics based, remove opinion from the equation, is Beta Rank, has the Hokies 15th. EA Sports has Virginia Tech 20th in its power rankings for the video game. And in the official, top 25s that have come out, the AP poll, Virginia Tech was actually unranked, but 27th, second most votes among others. And in the coaches poll, 28th. But a few that I was a bit surprised, I thought we might be on the low end at number 32, our CFP Winning Edge team strength power ratings. But ESPN's Bill Connolly, his SP Plus numbers have Virginia Tech 36th. The K Ford ratings have Virginia Tech 39th. And then ESPN's Football Power Index on the very low end with Virginia Tech number 50 nationally. So a much bigger range than I expected. I thought Virginia Tech would be, not seen maybe as a top 20 team very often. That Beta Rank 15 really did surprise me. Phil Steele, I was a little more, that seemed a little more expected, perhaps, because Steele in his overall rankings looks deeper into matchups and how the schedule sets up. And that's a real reason why there's a lot of interest in Virginia Tech, maybe as a dark horse ACC title contender, maybe even not that, dark horse, maybe somebody who really is going to be in the mix and most expect, even though the overall, roster, though is very experienced, maybe doesn't have the high-end raw talent that we expect to compete with a Florida State or a Clemson or maybe even a Miami at the top of the ACC. But the schedule sets up well enough that the Hokies certainly could win enough games to be a major factor. A big reason for optimism is quarterback Kyron Drones, who emerged as a starter early last season and then really started to grow into that position, grow into the talent that made him somebody there was a lot of excitement as a true freshman when he was there for Baylor, signed with Baylor a couple of years there with the Bears. I remember reading in The Athletic in the, I guess now defunct previews that The Athletic did for a couple of years, was my favorite thing to read. Remember hearing a lot of positive things about Kyron Drones as a true freshman, made him somebody I targeted in a few supplemental and freshman drafts on the college fantasy football side of things. And then I, unfortunately, in most cases, ran out of patience and had gotten rid of Drones by time he emerged last season at Virginia Tech. Nevertheless, David Hale, who is of course, a writer for ESPN and on ACC Network, somebody who has been an MVP of sorts in this preview series with his piece that he wrote late spring about all 134 FBS quarterback rooms and put them all in tiers and gave a little blurb or stat about each team. And for Virginia Tech and Drones, reading here from Hale, he said, Drones looks like an emerging star the way the Hokies finished the 2023 season, but it's worth noting his emergence also came with a pretty light schedule. And when things got tougher, he struggled. In 3 games versus top 40 by efficiency, he posted a 46.4 total QBR, 55.1% completions, 5.1 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Virginia Tech lost all 3 games. So Drones has a ton of talent, is certainly a player that I think has a very high ceiling. He is somebody who's gotten a little bit of Heisman buzz. I've used that word too much today, but I think it's apt that Kyron Drones. I remember early, maybe the Bear, Chris Felicia, now of Fox Sports, was one of the first that I saw highlight Drones as somebody that he was putting in the Heisman conversation, sort of that long shot option, and it certainly could pay off in part because Drones improved last season, as Hale said. Certainly has some room for improvement still, especially against top competition. But one of the things that makes Virginia Tech really appealing this year is that schedule sets up quite nicely. So we might be able to beat up on some of the lower rated teams. With that in mind, let's take a look at our CFP Winning Edge team profiles. We'll of course get to our overall projections for Virginia Tech this season, but let's take a look first at how last year went. 7-6 overall, 5-3 in the ACC for the Hokies. Team performance wise, a top 40 team. Played like a top 40 team nationally, a big step forward over the previous few seasons under Brett Pry, new head coach a couple of years ago, and then after the situation he was taking over. Looking at the 3 and 5 year windows, Virginia Tech ranked 70th in our weighted team performance. So trending certainly in the right direction, finishing top 40 nationally last year, top 50 on the offensive side of the ball, 58th passing, 57th rushing, and defensively. A top 45 finish, top 25 against the pass, 38th against the run. But Virginia Tech, I think, with Pry and his background as a defensive coordinator, the good work that he did at Penn State, I think that defensively there's a real potential for the Hokies to be a top 25 or better defense moving forward. The statistically speaking, nothing that really jumps out, nothing that differs too much from those team performance ratings overall. A lot of 40s, 50s in the offensive side of things, and scoring offense, FBS opponents only in the regular season only. Virginia Tech ranked 53 in number 53 nationally in scoring offense. They were 47th in both yards per play and points per drive. That points per drive number is filtered for garbage time by Brian Fremeau of bcftoys.com. They were 55th in yards per pass attempt, 73rd in success rate, according to collegefootballdata.com. So that was the lowest number there among these top 6 stats that we really pay our closest attention to. And then collegefootballdata.com's EPA per play equivalent, PPA is what they call it. Virginia Tech ranked 66th. On defense, not much different, a little bit better in a few of these categories. Number 49 in scoring defense, 32nd in yards per play allowed, 48th in points per drive against, 21st nationally in yards per pass attempt. So very solid there, as well as 22nd in success rate, 52nd in EPA per play. So looking on margin, on net for these, similar ballpark, 48th in scoring margin, 41st net yards per play, 49th in net points per drive, 32nd net yards per pass attempt, 35th in net success rate, and then 61st in EPA margin. How did it work out on the field? 7-6, as we said, 5-3 in conference play after a slow start and what looked like a really potentially disappointing season with a 1-3 finish in non-conference play. All of those conference games were winnable for Virginia Tech. Looking at them ahead of time, this time last year, thinking, man, yeah, this Virginia Tech season could get off to a great start. They could really build some momentum there, get past Old Dominion, which has been a little bit of a tricky in-state rival of sorts, competition, in-state foe there for Virginia Tech in the past. No problem, 82% in the post-game win expectancy number, again, according to collegefootballdata.com. Solid win, deserved it, looked good. But then Purdue, Rutgers, yeah, they were Big Ten teams, but Big Ten teams expected to finish on the low side of things last season. Purdue, even though it was a one-score game, Virginia Tech had just a 2% chance of winning that game if you were to play it 100 times, 1,000 times, however many, in the same box score. Those advanced box score numbers would have expected Virginia Tech to lose that game 98% of the time. With Rutgers, the score was far worse, final score, but the post-game numbers a little bit better. Virginia Tech had a 30% chance of winning that game, just 10% against Marshall. Again, very disappointing. Virginia Tech did get off to a good start in ACC play with an impressive win against Pitt. Not a surprise, the loss to Florida State. But then, Virginia Tech started to turn itself around a little bit. Dominated both Wake Forest and Syracuse. Lost to ACC title contending Louisville team. Beat Boston College in impressive fashion. Lost a close game, but not as close as the final score might indicate to NC State. Then a big blowout win over Virginia and a very impressive bowl victory over Tulane as well. So it's not like this Virginia Tech team started out 1-3 and then just completely turned it on and started to dominate the rest of the way. Kind of like Arizona we talked about last episode, that 7-game winning streak to end the season. Wasn't that for Virginia Tech. It definitely was still a little bit more win one, lose one for the most part, but the wins were really impressive, and the losses weren't unexpected. They were to the best teams in the ACC, Florida State, Louisville, NC State. So still, even though the post-game numbers weren't super impressive, overall, things went according to expectation, went according to plan. 7 wins, officially 7.14 in the second order wins. When we add up all those post-game win expectancy numbers, give 0.82 wins of credit for that Old Dominion win, 0.2 for the Purdue loss, comes down to 7.14 as expected. Things not too many unexpected results there. This season, as we'll get into, returning production-wise, Virginia Tech is about as good as it gets. Number 4 nationally, number 2 in the ACC, second in adjusted offensive returning production. That includes incoming transfers, 13th in adjusted defensive returning production. But if you look at just the raw numbers, who's coming back, who's not from that 2023 team, Virginia Tech would have ranked 5th in raw returning production, 4th on offense, 16th on defense. But, the Hokies were able to supplement a lot of experience coming back with a couple of transfers here and there, including the quarterback position behind Kyron Drones, though they did lose Grant Wells, who started the season for the Hokies before eventually, did have, I believe, an injury, but then gave way to Kyron Drones. Bringing in Colin Schlee, who put up good numbers in the past at Kent State, transferred to UCLA, didn't get a ton of action last season, but his production as a passer helps offset the loss of Wells just a little bit. But as you see, Drones, over 2,000 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions. That is a great TD to interception ratio. Hope to be able to carry over something along those lines in 2024, but room for improvement with a 58.2% completion percentage and 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Certainly there's room to improve there. The average depth of target is 8.8, kind of helps frame that completion percentage a bit. Drones isn't just, or wasn't asked to just, dump it off here and there and kind of pad the stats a little bit. Instead, was attacking downfield, and that is I think a decent sign if he's able to complete a few more of those deep pass attempts. Both of those numbers will grow, yards per pass attempt, completion percentage obviously, but the yardage will tick up as well. Drones, of course, is a very productive runner, over 800 yards on the ground. Doesn't sound like, based on some interviews with Pride this fall, that they're going to, try to pull back on that. Drones, one of his best assets is his running ability. So over 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets closer to double digits, especially if that's the plan, to put the football in his hands and let him do good things with it. Drones is of course athletic, but a powerful runner as well. I think he's going to be able to punch it in a bit more often this season. But Bashul Tutin comes back, double-digit touchdowns, just edged out Drones as the leading rusher for the Hokies last season with 863 yards. Malachi Thomas returns as well, a number 2 running back, nearly 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was a little bit limited early on in the season, if memory serves. Hopefully he'll be fully healthy and solid 1-2 running back duo. And then Colin Schlee, of course, can run 425 yards, 10.1 yards per attempt, and 3 touchdowns for UCLA last season. That was where he was used, obviously, the most for the Bruins. And if the decision, or if Pride changes his mind a little bit, doesn't want to get Drones banged up, can put Schlee in those short yardage situations closer to the goal line in those obvious running situations, and maybe he'll take some of the hits that Drones otherwise would. But rushing attack in pretty good shape from an experience standpoint. The receivers as well, top 2 wide receivers, Daquan Felton and Jalen Lane, are both back. Felton targeted the most, second in receptions with 38, led the team, of course, with 667 yards and 8 touchdowns. Lane, number 2 in targets, number 1 in receptions with 41, 538 yards and 6 scores. And let's not forget Allie Jennings, who played in just 1 game last season, had a good game. 2 touchdowns on 5 catches and 72 yards, was targeted 7 times, 19 routes run, but missed the rest of the season. He'll be back and should factor in, certainly as a top 3 wideout, maybe even, could be the top target once all is said and done. The tight end position took a little bit of a hit with Daquan Wright transferring to Ole Miss, but Benji Gosnell is back, and then also Nick Gallo is returning after missing all of last season. Of 23 game starters, appeared in 45 games in his career. So Wright is a unique talent of sorts. Certainly someone who I think has a bright future, could be a very productive receiver. But as far as Virginia Tech goes, experience-wise, they're going to be able to offset his loss a bit. Same for Dwayne Lofton as well. The offensive line is in great shape. All 5 full-time starters return. Everybody who started a game last season for the Hokies returns, and then they add an 11-game starter, Montavious Cunningham, to the mix. So one of the most experienced offensive lines in the country returning to Blacksburg. Defensively, 4 out of the 5 top tacklers from last season all return. They also add Sam Brumfield to the mix at linebacker. Aeneas Peebles was a productive interior defensive lineman. He enters through the transfer portal as well. Lose Derek Canteen due to transfer, a couple of others due to running out of eligibility, including productive pass rushers, Fidelis Fain and Norrell Pollard. But as we said before, a large amount of returning production, top 15 nationally when adjusted for incoming transfers, 16th in raw production. Virginia Tech going to be in pretty good shape on the defensive side of the ball. Getting back to our team profiles, how does this look as far as the projected starters? A lot like the end of the season, with the exception of getting Allie Jennings back and fully healthy, Nick Gallo as a projected starter at tight end again. So if you think just, returning starters as far as have they been a starter in the past, you could say all 11 return for Virginia Tech, maybe even 12 or 13 when you take into account that Stephen Gosnell and Benji Gosnell at tight end actually ended up both starting 51% or more of games last season. Schlee has been a starter at the FBS level. Cunningham has been a starter at the FBS level. So this Virginia Tech offense is in really, really good shape from an experience standpoint. It's pretty talented as well. 35th in overall roster strength. That's going to be behind Florida State and Clemson and Miami and NC State, but it's overall solid and not a lot of holes. 29th, I should say, on offensive roster strength, 35th overall. And then the defense, I think, is better than this 46 ranking in defensive roster strength. Antoine Powell-Ryland had a huge year last season for Virginia Tech, 19 production points, just very, very productive off the edge there for the Hokies. He's one of 2 returning starters on the defensive line. They add Peebles. Josh Fuga's been, played a lot of football in the past as well. That second team defensive line brings back 3 players who appeared in at least a quarter of snaps last season. Kyshon Burgos was on the field roughly half the time, a little less, 42.5%, but brought in some experience with Peebles and Kelvin Gilliam as transfers. Kelly Lawson, the returning starter at linebacker. Sam Brumfield, he's been a starter as well at the FBS level. That group looks solid. And then all 5 returning starters, including Jalen Stroman, who missed time with injury last season. All those guys are back. There's some experience in the 2 deep as well. So once again, Virginia Tech is looking good from an experience standpoint. As far as overall talent goes, this Virginia Tech team, when I say raw talent, typically, if this is your first time with us, I'm talking, average 247 composite rating, or we also track the average rivals ratings and on-3 ratings by position. And Virginia Tech's a little on the low end as far as a Power 4 program. 54th on the offensive side of the ball, an average 247 composite rating. 40th on defense, but we're talking about a team that has top 25 potential and maybe make a run at an ACC championship. And of course, win the ACC, you're going to get one of those top 4 seeds in the college football playoff. But just from a pure talent standpoint, maybe the expectations, at least as players signing out of high school, not quite on par with the top level teams as expected in the ACC. We do, and a big reason why we go through all of this with our team profiles is sometimes those recruiting ratings, as great of a job as they do, and they are, honestly excellent far more often than not. Sometimes, a team and certain players can overachieve those projections coming out of high school. So we adjust for experience and production, and that's where we get our position strength ratings. Those come from our individual player ratings. 36 on the offensive side of the ball, 46th defensively, 38th overall in average position strength. So again, top 40 as far as the overall talent on hand, as you would expect it based on this season. But I alluded to it earlier, and getting down to business here. Virginia Tech 56th in strength of schedule. That is going to be key. DraftKings has the regular season win total posted at 8.5. We are under that officially. 7.7 is our projection. Personally, I think this Virginia Tech team absolutely can get to 9 wins. We do have Virginia Tech favored in 9 games. So even though this is our official 7.7 projection, we are testing a different way this season. And our numbers have been pretty good in the past, 60.4% over the last 3 seasons when we started doing these win total projections for every FBS team, 55.6% last season. But a team like Virginia Tech that is favored in 9 games, I wanted to see if, we tested out a little bit of an adjustment, give a 10% bonus for each projected game in which a team is a favorite, give a 10% penalty for each game matchup in which a team is an underdog. Virginia Tech comes out at +6. So that, add that to the 7.7, we're still under the 8.5 there. So I guess, our numbers just aren't quite trusting Virginia Tech's going to get over the hump and truly take the most advantage of this manageable schedule. Nevertheless, once again, 4 winnable games in non-conference play. I definitely expect better than 1-3 this season against Vanderbilt, Marshall, Old Dominion, Rutgers. Played 3 of those 4 last season. 3-1 maybe looks like worst case scenario for Virginia Tech there, but more than a touchdown favorite in each of those 4. That trip to Miami to start ACC play is going to be tough, and then back-to-back road trips going all the way across the country at Stanford. That's a bit of a tough matchup as well, even though Virginia Tech pretty heavy favorite there. But, you do see Clemson here on the schedule. That game is in Blacksburg, which, of course, is key. Do have a road trip to Syracuse, who our numbers are a little bit higher on than most, where we do have the Orange as a slight favorite there. By the time that game kicks off, wouldn't be surprised if things have flipped a little bit and we have the Hokies favored once again. But no Florida State on the schedule, no NC State. Very manageable. Miami and Clemson, Virginia Tech is not going to be intimidated there. So both of those games are certainly winnable. That Syracuse game is certainly winnable. Is 11-1 a possibility for Virginia Tech? Absolutely. Is it that likely? Based on those talent numbers, our projections struggle to get there a little bit. But like I said, we're officially under the 8.5, but it wouldn't surprise me if this Virginia Tech team really does capitalize on that experience, that continuity, which is rare in today's college football, and gets to that 9th win and is a team that's maybe going to find its way into the ACC championship game. I do think that's absolutely a possibility. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving this video a like, for subscribing to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. And thanks so much if you have been a member at campustocanton.com, where you can join for as little as $2.99 per month, or get access to all 134 team pages here in our team profiles at CFB Winning Edge, our returning production database, our stat projections as well. You can do that as an all 22 or C2C member. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. There'll be a lot of scrimmages across college football. Hopefully we'll get some pieces of information to discuss next week for Good Morning College Football. I'm Nicholas Ian Allen, CFB Winning Edge, Campus to Canton. Have a great weekend. Take care.